because it left up to Satan. I was not supposed to be here today. And I just want to thank the Lord for allowing me. It sounds strange, but I want to thank him for allowing me to go through cancer, that journey through cancer. I've been a lecturer at Compton Community College, where I taught health education, taught at Charles Drew Medical School, the physician assistant students, all this. Teaching cancer is one thing, but going through is a whole nother matter. And you could teach things all day long from research, but when you have suffered through it, it's a whole different ballgame. Believe me, when you land in your back at Loma Linda University in a hospital bed, the doctors tell you got 6 months to 2 years to live, that you got a unique form of cancer, that you don't know what it came from, and you've never been in a hospital in your life. After 64 years, never had to go to a hospital, spend a night in the hospital in my life, and all of a sudden, come down, they tell you got cancer. And this was something that is phenomenal. So I want to, first of all, thank the Lord. I want to thank Elder Presley for opening the doors here for me to come and have the opportunity. I want to thank Dr. King and Elder Mitchell. Now, this thing was, oh man, how do I explain it? This is not going to be one of your typical sermons, okay? I'm going to tell you now. So get ready for it. And like I told them up in Seattle, this is the 4th time I've done this sermon. One I did Seattle for all the area churches in the North Pacific Union, Seattle, Portland area. About last month, I think I was in Oakland, and did Oakland, all of San Francisco came over from Oakland. I want to hear this testimony. Then the following week, we did LA, 54th Street. All the churches in Lancaster, University, all of them there at 54th Street. This is going to be Southeastern. We were going to do one in Mount Rubidoux, and they changed it. Dr. King said, no, San Diego needs to hear this themselves because it's too far away, because you grew up in San Diego. So Dr. King put up the money, Elder Mitchell put up the money. This is how important this is to them. And so this week we're doing San Diego here for all the area churches this afternoon. Next week we'll be at 16th Street for all the, and then I got a call from a gentleman in Baltimore. This man has had 3 doses of chemotherapy, and the doctor said you can't have any more. So now, out of desperation, they're calling and saying, what can we do? He had me, Margie on the same phone. We had a 4-way phone conversation, his wife, him, me, and Margie on the phone, going over what we went through. What's that juice you use, and so forth and so on. And everybody, they're just into this thing now for the first time. And I told Elder Mitchell, and Mitchell told me that, because he came the first day I was in the hospital, Elder Mitchell from the union office, and he said, Raiford, the Lord took you through this for a reason. He wants you to be the witness for his church. Because if this can happen to you, after all the lectures you've done in health, this can happen to anybody. And people will take this thing serious if you speak and tell them your story. So this is why I think the Lord allowed me to go through the worst form. And I'm telling you, this was the worst form of cancer. And I didn't have any problem. I mean, I was Huntsville, but I'm going to tell you what I really believe happened. And I'll tell you this. Dr. Leslie Pollard, the new president of Oakwood, came to see me the second day I was in Loma Linda. And he'll testify to this, because nobody thought I was coming out of that hospital alive. They saw me, my eyes were yellow with jaundice, I'd lost 40 pounds. I couldn't stand up, I had no muscle mass. Chuck and Carolyn saw me. They come up regularly checking up on me. See, I mean, there's no way I survived that thing without God. No way. But there's a reason for it, and that's the point. See, it's not so much Raiford made it, look how healthy he is. That's not the point. The point is God's trying to tell this church something. This church has had a health message for years and they ain't did nothing with it. And now we got our top leaders dying of cancer. You look down over, see how many, just look at the who's who of our Adventist leadership. And I mean, Cleveland, just go down, I don't like to mention names, but you go down the list. Our top leaders now, and these are vegetarians. So you know it ain't about eating just meat, which we've been preaching all our years in ignorance. It's not just about meat. You can get cancer from a number of ways. And this is what we're going to be dealing with this morning and this afternoon. They'll be talking about the treatment. 3 o'clock, I'm going to deal with my specific thing. I'm going to tell you, I ain't the one who's been treating me. Margie's been doing the work. She went and studied every cancer book there is when I came down to this thing. And after this afternoon, she's going to tell you about all the selenium and all the turmeric and all these weird sound names I ain't never heard of. Flaxseed oil, all them pills she's been giving me. We flew in from Huntsville yesterday. 5 o'clock, went over and got some shoes at Ontario Mills Mall. Skechers, all right? So we can get our exercise in, right? Skechers at discount, at off-Broadway, half price, right? All right? Made it, and so we finished that, we went over to Loma Linda to Clark's Drugs and bought almost $150 worth of herbal medicines, the medicines we need. to keep going. The stuff it started me on. You got to spend money to stay healthy. But if you cut out spending money on the wrong things, you'll have the money to buy the herbs and the medicine you need. So these are things we're going to be trying to get Adventists to wake up and understand. Okay? This is no game, people. Satan showed me this is no game. Satan is powerful, but God is more powerful. Believe me. And let's bow our heads so we can get into this thing and deal with this. Lord, thank you again for the opportunity to come before thy people, to give this word, this message, help that will inspire somebody to review their own lives, to start eating differently, to start exercising, get their bodies in shape, get their minds in tune with you, and to realize that no matter what we do, it all stems from you and the blessings you give us. These blessings I ask, use me as an instrument to educate thy people on your Sabbath day, for Christ's sake. Amen. Like I said, this thing, every time I do this sermon, it comes out a different way. You got it? Okay, I'm not used to holding a hand mic, so if you just bear with it a minute. I have notes planned for this sermon, but I've learned when your life has been touched by something, it ain't like talking about somebody else. You let the Holy Spirit carry you. Somebody here needs to hear a certain message I don't even know about that the Spirit will give me to say that will touch you in a way that I didn't even know was going to touch you. So I can't give the same message I give to L.A. and to Oakland, I'm going to give to San Diego. It ain't going to work because different people got different problems. You got loved ones that got cancer. I mean, every time I do this thing, I get at least 5 calls during the week of somebody who didn't want to tell nobody. I had a pastor call to tell me his head elder had cancer and didn't want nobody in the church to know. I'm saying, well, how in the world you expect for somebody to pray for you? You ain't letting them know. Where do we get this Adventist pride where it's like AIDS? We are ashamed to admit we got cancer. You see, there's something wrong with this picture today. Our pride and our image is so more important than our health, and that's a problem in our church today. And we got to humble ourselves and get back to the basics. Because I'm telling you, it makes no difference how many PhDs you got, how much money you got in the bank, what your name is, what your image. Your public image don't mean nothing when you dying on your deathbed. Believe me. You want somebody out in that church to be praying for you. Hope that person got a good life. The Lord will listen to answer them prayers. Believe me. That's the only thing that's going to save you from dying. All right? So these are things, again, I'm hoping I'm hitting serious. I ain't coming up here to play no games or like I told them in Seattle. Some folk may come up here with their properness, looking all, protocol and all that stuff. Hey, I tell them, hey, you can get mad at me. You can go report it to the church board, report it to the pastor, report it to the conference. I don't care. Take it to GC. Because as far as the doctor's concerned, I'm supposed to be dead anyway. So you go ahead. Take your best shot. See, can't nothing hurt me now that the Lord done spared my life. Are you with me? So no amount of talking or anything else. Feelings don't get hurt when you survive death. Believe me. So you've got to put this whole Christian thing into perspective. 2 things that Adventist Church are not doing that we should have been doing a long time ago. Number 1, we've always had the blessing of last day events. And the other 2, we've always had the blessing of a health message nobody else has. And we haven't been using either one of them. You see, we're out there trying to chase T.D. Jakes and get mega churches like Joe Osteen. We should be a unique body going around teaching people in our communities how to overcome problems in their personal lives. Our mission is not a mega church or how big. That's why our churches are not being blessed today, particularly in the inner city. You see, one of the things that I think that the devil hit me with, and Elder Mitchell and I had talked about that, the union, we always talk. We get on that phone, talk an hour, don't even know it's gone. You see, because Mitchell, when he first graduated from Oakwood, I was speaking at San Francisco Rainbow Church. He was introduced as the new pastor, fresh out of Oakwood. And from that day, we've been close ever since then. I was finishing a health seminar, and he was coming in as a new pastor to follow up, and they were introducing him as the pastor that same Sabbath we finished. And we have just been tight ever since then. And Mitchell said, Raiford, we hit on something. We were just reflecting. He said, we talked to Ella Pollard, now that he's the president of Oakwood, a problem we have with our pastors coming out of Oakwood. They all know how to do crusades and stuff. Most of them are going into inner city areas and have no skills on how to deal with the inner city. See, Oakwood teaches you how to preach, but they don't teach you how to reach people where they're hurting. You follow what I'm saying? And that's a problem. And he says Pollard is looking at that because he's considering changing it. They're going to begin to go back to what Loma Linda used to do for us. When I was a student in Loma Linda, they gave me a 3-year scholarship to work on a doctorate of health science degree. That's what started me in Loma Linda. I think the Lord sent me there just long enough to get some education and get me out of there, and go do something and get into the community. Are you with me? Sometimes you get that degree and you think you Dr. Woods, you hot stuff, So he kind of snatched me before that ego started getting big. I'm Dr. Woods from Loma Linda, so who cares? You see? You go to the hood, the brothers don't care where you graduated from. You know? Can you help me kick this junk habit? That's all I want to know. Can you get me off this alcohol? Get this monkey off my back. Can you help me get a job? Later for your degree, what can you help me do now? You see? So we as Adventists, we get hooked up in this education. It's amazing how we come into the church so ignorant and uneducated, yet a few years later we get educated and we think we're better than everybody else. You see? Forget where we come from. And that's one thing I refuse to do, is to forget where I came from. Anybody want to know? This is homecoming for me. I was telling the pastor today, right? He said, I know you know all these folks. Hey, man, I grew up here. My whole life started in San Diego. Hey, born at Naval Hospital, right? Went to Stockton Elementary, now Martin Luther King, I think they renamed it. Memorial Junior High, San Diego State. You see, my whole beginning. Got blessed by Dr. Dennis Black at 31st Street when I was a baby. Got baptized by Eric Ward. Dave Taylor helped keep me in the church when I was a teenager rebelling. Are you following? Got married by Dr. Richard Berry. And we were going, everybody else getting married out of Paradise Valley and Lemon Grove. We said, we getting married in the hood, where we went when I grew up at 31st Street. We got married right there, 31st Street. Didn't have no money. Modesta George got the cake from George's Bakery, right? Right? And imagine, when you had nothing, we only got $50. She said, I'll take care of the rest. Didn't have no Cadillac, so couldn't go nowhere. We in Logan Heights, where I grew up, right? So what we did after the wedding, we got in the Stokes car, Vivian Otto Stokes car, the Cadillac, and drove throughout Logan Heights, honking our horn, saying we married. And came right back to 31st Street and went downstairs and had the reception. You see? All on about a $500 budget. You see? In fact, Margie's dean, Miss Buckwater at Paradise Valley School of Nursing, when they had the old Paradise Valley, that's where we met when she was Paradise Valley. Her dean made her dress for free because we didn't have no money. You see? The Lord put this thing together 44 years ago because he knew I'd be standing here today. And that's the way God works. People that brought you through are the reason why you're here today. That's why nobody should ever think they're better than somebody. When I go to Watts, I talk to them brothers just like they're homeboys. Hug them up. I don't care how bad they smelling because I was there too. You see? So don't think because we have become educated, we know spirit of prophecy, we know so much that we are better than anybody else. That's number one. You get humble because the Lord will humble you one way or the other. Believe me, he'll find a way. So you might as well let your ego go. Are you with me? He'll bring it down because he's going to finish his work with or without us. All right? So we've got to get ourselves together, folks. This time is wrapping up. Our ministers are getting all. This sermon is going to be different now. I'm going to try to cut it down. There are 5 key components. This is where I teach health education, whether it's in the community, whether it's at a community college class, or whatever. There's 5 components. You know, they used to send us all these books as professors in health, give you free books because they want you to buy their books so you use it for your students. They make more money, these publishing companies and all that. I used to look at these books and immediately I say, this is not what health is. They'd have physical, mental, social as health. Today, health is much more complex than that. Health is not physical, mental, and social anymore. That was the 50s. Health today is 5 components. Number 1, health is physical. 2, health is intellectual. 3, health is emotional. 4, health is social and health. And 5, health is spiritual. Now, what did I just tell you? Number 1, health is what? Number 2, talk to me. Now, I'm not a preacher, I'm a teacher, so I ain't interested in amens. I want to know what you learned something this morning. Health is what? First, physical. Health is second, what? Intellectual. Third. Fourth. Social. And then what? Spiritual. We're going to talk about each one of these 5 quite quickly, so stay with me on this. Now, my objective, number 1, is to give you a victim's perspective, not just educated perspective, but a victim's perspective of the myths and the truths about cancer this morning. There's a lot of myths going out there about cancer. A lot of spoon-fed information that's wrong, that needs to be corrected. It's also to illustrate you how God seeks to awaken his last-day church to be a leader in helping the rest of the world overcome these things. People should be coming to the Adventist church asking you, how can I get rid of cancer? Rather than Adventists going to the hospital asking, can you help me get rid of my cancer? We got the message. Are you with me? All right, follow. Next. First of all, physical profile. Let me give you a background what happened. Margie and I left Huntsville, Alabama, to come to California to take care of our 2 grandsons. Marcy and Thomas had their 7th wedding anniversary, It was in August, and they were going to Hawaii, so we're going to take care of the two kids. I come out, and normally when I come out to California from Alabama now, I get my checkup at Loma Linda because I want to keep my doctors there, medical insurance. And so what happened, we go see the doctor. The doctor calls and says, you need to come back. We got to talk to you. I said, what's wrong? We need to see you. I came back, and they started telling us about your lab reports look bad here. Wait a minute. I just swam 12 laps at the YMCA just 4 days ago in Huntsville. What you mean something's wrong? And they looked at it, and they said, and I felt fine. I said, there got to be a mistake. In 2 days, my whole chest started hurting. I could not sleep. The whole inside was in pain. I went to Loma Linda, and they said, we keeping you in there. You ain't going home. From that point on, I was in Loma Linda for 4 weeks straight. 4 weeks. The first week, I had no idea I had cancer. Now, let me tell you what I look back on. I told them in Huntsville this. When we decided that we were going to have an inner city symposium in Huntsville, and we're going to start an inner city ministry down there. We got a vote. The Church of New Life, our church, voted to do that. Next step was going to go to the Madison Mission. And then we're going to hit Oakwood, get all three together. We're going to start, just like we do in California, we're going to do a symposium for the first time. Because in the South, they need it down there. Mississippi Delta, the situation is terrible. You see, our people are in ignorance. See, so you got the elite Oakwood educated, but then you got all these other small cities and towns that don't know nothing, that are living in despair. So we're saying we've got to train people down here. We got to pull Atlanta in, and Texas and the rest of them in down here. Same way we did in California. We got ready to do that. They voted, we're going to do it. And the next step would have been heading toward Oakwood because we had talked to Elder Mitchell about the students in Oakwood needing to be trained as well. And that's important. The ministerial students needed to be trained in how to do outreach once they get their calls. You see, rather than just do Bible studies, you got to get out there and do alcohol and drugs and stuff too. You see, you can't just feed people and give them Bible studies. You got to do more than that. So that was going to be part of the plan. The devil got hold of that, knew he could see where this thing was going to go. And in the 2 weeks after they voted that we were going to do a symposium in Huntsville, I go to Loma Linda, they tell me I got cancer. Never been sick in my life. And when the devil hits you, he hits you hard. Loma Linda's doctors came in, and they told me basically, Raiford, man, you got a situation here that we don't see that. He said less than 5% of our cancer patients at Loma Linda, our own hospital, less than 5% have the complications that you have. And we're giving you 6 months to 2 years to live. I remember that night, because when they told me that, I was in a daze. And Dr. Curtis Fox from Mount Rubidoux came in that night just to check up on me. And I said, Doc, they just told me I got 6 months to 2 years. And Curtis' mouth just dropped. He couldn't believe it. You see? And it's like, you feel hopeless. And I'm from the hood. So it's like, I ain't going out like this. I ain't going to be, no. So, I ain't gonna lay up here and get depressed and that just ain't the ghetto, Brother, if you're gonna take me out with a bullet or maybe go out with honor. But you ain't gonna humble me to make me cry in front of you, devil. Are you with me? You follow? So I'm telling you, I got to the point where nobody, it's just, I wasn't eating, and I said, no, I got to do something here. And I remember talking to John Parker when he was going through the stage, because we had his funeral right here. But when I go talk to John, he and I conversed one week. We had a relationship that's very unique because we knew what it was like. Both of us, it's something you can't explain. It's something you got to be there in order to understand it. You got to go through some mess in order to overcome the mess and see what the Lord can do for you. You follow? And very few people have done that in the inner city. You follow? So I didn't have John. That's why I told him when all his daughters came to see me in the hospital. When Elder James Kyle came and anointed me when they thought I was really going to go. And I say, man, I need John here. I wish he was here to back me up right here. But there's certain people you count on in your life when things are going bad for you. You're there for them, and they're there for you. And when you grow up in the inner city with no daddy, and you bind with certain individuals, and those people are taken from you, it's hard to make it. Are you with me? For a man, you got a wife, you have women, but men need men to relate to when you're going through a struggle. You got to have somebody who knows what you're going through because they've been there. You see, so these are things that, when you talk about my life, I'm sure many other people out there have gone through similar, but they're just not talking about it. You see, cancer is something. It can't be just cancer, it's diabetes. It's all kinds of diseases now people are dying from in the Adventist church. And my heart just goes out because I'm going to do everything I can to help people. Now, the cancer I had, get this clear, This is why I know the Lord let this thing happen with Satan. The cancer I had, the Loma Linda said only 5%. Number one was liver cancer. Margie said she went and looked on that screen and saw, when they were doing the detection on my chest, she saw the nodes on my liver. My bilirubin had shot up to 18, supposed to be down to 9, and gone up to 18. They had to give me chemotherapy immediately in order to save my life. That's how serious this thing was. Now, the chemo was to keep my liver, because my liver shut down, my whole system would have shut down. And I've been gone within a week. Not only was it liver that I later found out, I had lymphoma too. So my whole lymphatic system, no resistance, couldn't fight no disease. So when people got the word and they started announcing it in the conference, they wanted to keep it quiet. You know how we do, don't let it get out yet. But when they found out it was that bad, it got out. And I mean, this thing is like, I was talking to Byron Doolin, one of the pastors up in Seattle, and he said, Raiford, man, when this thing first hit, we got word up here, and it's just like, well, Raiford's sick. But they said, when they said you had cancer, that thing was like the tsunami hit. It just rolled over the whole West Coast. And they had every church on the black church on the West Coast praying, from Seattle all the way down to San Diego. You see, that's why I said, if you're in trouble, the one thing you need is prayers. The Lord is going to hear his people. Don't be so proud to tell people you sick. Ain't nothing wrong with being sick. It ain't your fault. You have no control over these things. So first of all, humble yourself. Ask for prayer. Call the church to prayer for you. That's the first step. Call on God. Let him know you are serious and you can't handle it yourself. All right? But that, I not only had lymphoma, which meant if a child would have came in my room with the flu and I got the flu from that child, I wouldn't have had nothing to fight it. And I would have died from that flu. That's why Loma Linda wouldn't let me fly on the airplane and go back to Alabama. See, I was in the hospital 4 weeks and had to stay here another 4 weeks. In conclusion, they didn't want to let nobody know where I was. I was at Juliana Madison's house the whole time, Cedric Madison. And nobody, don't let nobody, because we knew them people be flowing in. They still found out. People flew in from San Jose, coming all the way down to see us. You see? So when you got a lot of people, a lot of friends, you don't want to offend. And I think some things got out the wrong way. Marcia was like the Secret Service at Loma Linda. No, you can't go in. And she was like checking IDs to come in. I mean, are you a pastor? Well, no, you can't come in. I said, Marcia, lighten up. You know, because see, the thing about me, I feed off of people, you know. And if you ain't there, if I don't have people, I get depressed. People is what keep me going. Are you following? That's something you have to have also in your life. Don't do it alone. Let people come. Let them cheer you up. That's what keeps your spirit going. All right? Now, these are just things I'm telling you about, the personal things, before we get into the intellectual side that you need to know. I was in Loma Linda for 4 weeks. In addition to the cancer, the liver, the lymphoma, I also had old pneumonia and didn't even know it. And every time I tried to go to sleep, I cough and croak and wake myself up in the middle of the night. Couldn't sleep. All right? And giving a lot of credit to my man who will be there this afternoon. When he came and worked on me at Juliana's house, therefore he stayed with us for 2 weeks, did all my meals. He put me straight vegetable juice, blended it all, did everything, did the herbs, studied the whole thing, did an outstanding job. And the one thing, you know, he did with that pneumonia that I remember, I could not sleep. He laid me on the bed, the cot, the massage bed that they use to treat you on, put an onion in my back, a large onion. In fact, Stennis and them were there that night. They did it, Fred and his wife Stennis, and put the infrared lamps on my chest. And those red lamps, he said, take it as hot as you can. And I take it until I couldn't take no more, and I stopped. He put it back on again. Did 2 treatments of that. I never had a cough since then. Clear that up in 2 treatments. That's what I'm telling you. This stuff works, people. I ain't talking about something I read out some book. Dr. Charles Thomas, who used to be at Loma Linda, who started all this. Now, when I was a student back in 77 in Loma Linda, the Loma Linda wouldn't even give him credit. He could not teach this during the regular hours. He made him teach him after 6 o'clock as an elective. And this stuff is so essential today that all your non-Christians are using it. We had it and wouldn't even let the man teach it. Wouldn't give it credit. Why? Because of the government's grant that Loma Linda was getting did not recognize alternative medicines. And we had it, we trying to get the federal money. To this day, I look at that and I say, where would Adventists be today if we would have just took our health message, natural remedies, and went out and hit the world with it? Now we go on to Gentiles to get the information we let out with, because we didn't move when the Lord told us to do it. Are you following? And Loma Linda, I graduated from Loma Linda, thanked him for that 3-year scholarship for that doctoral program. I wouldn't have got there had they not given me that money. But Loma Linda today ain't the Loma Linda I went to back then. Are you following? You see, Loma Linda's got that big proton scope for cancer, and all they're interested in is getting patients in there so they get more federal money. I'm just going to be straight with you. When your number one concern should be to help the person. I talked with, I'm not going to mention his name, the head of the oncology division at Loma Linda. He's not Adventist, by the way. That's one of the problems. And he basically told us, I said, Doc, let me try the herbal. It's working. I'm taking wheatgrass. And when I was at Loma Linda, man, I mean, boy, I couldn't eat the food. It was so bad. I couldn't eat it. Everything was packaged, processed. I couldn't handle it. I had to tell Marcia to go down to the snack bar and get me a salad. Just a simple salad. And we had our team from Rubidoux, Travis, Gary, and then Marcia and them. They'd come in and bring me wheatgrass 3 times a day from Jamba Juice. Straight wheatgrass. I got to the point my little grandson see me take that stuff 3 times. Finally, he said, Grandpa, look. He'd take it, go like this, and then go like that, because he knew it's nasty. He'd go like that, and want an orange to bite the orange afterward, you know, because the wheatgrass is strong. But that wheatgrass carried me through. Are you following? And the point I'm making here again is that be careful. Don't let any doctor control your life. Doctors are good. They're needed. But you check up behind the doctors. Are you following? All right, I love doctors. And my complaint today, and going through all this, is that Adventists have got to come together in this medical thing. The medical professors say they don't believe in alternative, the herbs. The herbalists say don't go to the doctors. No, you got to do this or the other. You got to come together, and both of you got to work together to finish this thing. There's place for both. Are you with me? My doctor said they would not let me. We had a pastor from Oakland who called a gentleman down here and said, whatever Woods needs, get it for him. Margie said, well, we need some alkaline water, because your alkaline water helps fight. Loma Linda would not let me use that alkaline water. The doctor, he says, that may interfere with your chemotherapy. We don't want that. I wanted that you take natural herb. They would not let me have the natural herbals. So it's like this battle going on between herbalists and our medical profession. Are you following? And it's time for us to stop this battle and come together. Too many people are dying while the eagles are beginning to fly. Are you following? All right? So here again, talking in terms of how this treatment will go. Now, to give you an effect also, visitors were restricted from coming to see me because of what I mentioned about the lymphoma. But it's amazing. I remember Dr. Elder Mark Woodson and Elder Kelly, Michael Kelly, coming to see me. And the word got out, I think about a week later, that I had died. I don't know if some of you have heard that. Yeah, I see. I know Kansas, a lot of them call. And somebody from Oakland called Loma Linda, had heard that I had died. Come to find somebody, Raiford Woods in Boston had died 2 years earlier. And somebody claimed, then put on the Adventist grapevine now, ain't checked out the facts. Just saw Raiford, whoa, got on, and the next thing, Raiford then died, you know? And so this thing got bad, and finally one of our dear sisters who comes to the symposium every year, she was on the phone, she cried, and she called and was talking to Marcia. They said, Dr. Woods cried, and Marcia said, no, Dr. Woods not dead. I'm sitting in front of Madison's house. He said, he's right here, rocking in the rocking chair. And so I got it, and she was and I said, this is ridiculous. And I called Ella Kelly and said, I got to show up. People got to know I'm all right. Follow? So we made an arrangement, went to Rubidoux, and I got there. Margie said, you're only going to go. So the doctors didn't want me to go because of the exposure. I got up Rubidoux, just have 2 minutes. I got up, because I knew Rubidoux was on the internet, and everybody was seeing. That was shut folks' mouths up, all right? And so we got on the internet, and it got up, said good morning. Everybody just, the responded Rubidoux at my home church. And after that, I said, thank you, keep my prayers up. And I tried. They wanted me to roll out in a wheelchair. And I told Travis and Gary, I can't go in a wheelchair. They know I'll be bad shape then. So I got up, got behind the podium, and it came out, me and Margie walking, and spoke, and finally got out and got back in that car, went right back to Juliana's house. Now, found out later they wanted me to come at the end of the sermon. I said, this ain't Hollywood. I can't stay through no hour and a half at Rubidoux, And when Fox finished his sermon, they wanted me to come out, and then the whole, I said, no, the Lord don't work that way. Let's just keep it sacred, okay? All right? This ain't showtime, all right? But these are things, again, folk, that go on, because I know my name is highly profiled on the West Coast. It can be a blessing, but also can be a curse sometimes when you get the wrong information out. Follow? So all kinds of stuff is going. I just thank the Lord for the prayers San Diego was praying for me down here. Believe me, because I got calls from Stokes, I got calls from Parkers, I got calls from You name them. I got calls from Kansas Avenue, got calls steadily from Rubidoux flowing in. And people would come and sit outside because they would not let them in, okay, because of the disease we carried. But lo and behold, 4 weeks, I got ready to leave Loma Linda. I was 40 pounds lighter, had lost skin and bones. You can imagine what I looked like. I've gained 20 back, but I had lost 20 more pounds. Could not stand up for long on my own because there was no muscle mass in my legs. I also had hair loss. Margie said she saw my hair falling out after the chemo. Your hair falls out, you see? And then the thing that I could not get used to is my fingertips being numb. That chemo causes you don't have any feeling in your fingertips. And in the mouth, everything I tasted tastes like chalk. So I couldn't appreciate food because the chemo that's one of the reasons why I was insistent on doing this sermon. Because I said, I don't want nobody to go through what I had to go through with that chemotherapy. It is terrible, and no Christian should have to go through that. There's got to be an alternative way to help people avoid that. And there are. Moving on, constipation of the bowels. That was another problem, where I couldn't go to the bathroom. You want to know what's a bad feeling. And I know people laugh and so forth, but one of the worst feelings you can have is needing to have a bowel movement and you can't do it. And your stomach's just getting bloated, and you can't relieve yourself from the stress. That's one of the worst experiences you'll go through. See? And then on top of that, the chemotherapy, the hallucinations, which I wasn't ready for, and that's the one thing that was a nightmare to me. They gave me that chemo. I didn't know what chemo was, and I was so out of it, doped up and everything. They gave me the chemo, and I came out, and I woke up, and all of a sudden I saw these white coats walking around me. And first thing I thought about was the Twilight Zone with them aliens on a spaceship. I really did. I thought I was, oh man, I couldn't see no faces. All I saw were white coats. And I started screaming and hollering. Marty said, calm down. And the doctors came back and said, easy. I looked up. It was my doctor. It was the doctors in the white coats, but I couldn't see their faces. And because of the chemo, my mind was so gone, I began to hallucinate. Are you following? Now I'm telling you firsthand what happened. This is why when a person goes through cancer, you got to understand what they're going through and don't be so hard on them. My banker, assistant bank down in Huntsville, she was praying for me. She's Jewish. And her father, who was a professor at Berkeley, down there now, and he's old, elder, he was in his 80s. He had 3 doses of chemo. And she said, Dr. Woods, he wouldn't take any more. The doctor said, he's got that. He said, I'm not taking no more. He said, daddies can be stubborn. After a while, he said, look, I've lived my life. I'm 84 years old. I'm not going through that again. I'd rather die than to go through that. And he said, you mean you don't want to see your grandkids? And she said, I had to leave the room because I was so upset with him. Because I said, he'd rather die than see his grandkids. I said, no, Kath, you got to understand. When you've lived your life and you've did all you could, and the rest, and you only got a few more years to live and you feel miserable, you do not want the last part of your life to be miserable. That's what you've got to understand when you're dealing with elderly people who have terminal diseases. Don't be so hard on them. See, our problem is we want them to live for us, but we're not even considering their feelings. You're not considering the pain that they're going through. This is why we've got to back off sometimes and let the Lord have his way. And she said he refused to take that chemo, and he ended up dying, and she still had trouble dealing with it. But when I sat there, she was there on the other side after I'd made my bank transaction, and she was in tears. And I said, you got to understand, when you're going through this, it's a whole different scenario. I gave her my perspective. It's amazing how somebody else can say the same thing the person's saying, but the person accepts it differently than the person who they're closest to. She could understand it once I explained my experience, but he was telling her the exact same thing, but she couldn't understand it. You see, because she was too close to him. And she wanted her daddy at all costs. You follow? Same thing happened to me and Marcia. I told her about the situation where we got into it one night. I said, I can't drink this stuff. This stuff is not, hey, man, you making me drink 3 times a day, a quart each time. 3 times a day. Think of this. I'm drinking broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, what was the other one? Cucumber, carrots, and one other green one. I forgot the beets. Beets. All 5. And I'm drinking a quart 3 times a day. And then they're giving me grits in the evening. They call it, what do they call that stuff? Whatever it is. It's like grits to me, with no butter, no salt, no nothing. Just grains, Wouldn't even have no bread. And I'm saying, I cannot live like this. I'd rather die. And I was literally, and they were upset. No, you can't. I said, wait a minute. Look, it's my life. We got into an argument. Whose life is it? Is it yours or mine? Because after a while you say, wait a minute, I'm the daddy here. And I thought, don't I have a say in this matter? You see? And I'm talking from experience because I want you to understand when you're dealing with a loved one in your family, you'll know what they're going through. And you won't be so hard or judgmental on them. Because we forget what people are going through. See, it's one thing to be coming to see how you're doing. Hi, I'm kissing, I'm praying for you, I'll make you feel better. But if you were suffering through that thing, it would not be the same thing. You follow? So understand, suffering through a disease can be very, very rough on the person going through it. Although the person also is affected. I remember we get into that argument about you're going to stop eating sugar and stop eating all this. And this is the next thing we get into with this cancer thing where people think meat is your number one culprit or your number one problem. Dairy is your number one problem with cancer. It is not. Mark my words, it is not. And I'm telling you from what the doctors have told me and from what today's research has told you, meat will introduce cancer into your system. The blood of the animal can carry that disease. Are you following? You see, the milk is the secretion from the animal. All milk is a secretion from a cow's gland. Think about it. If you look at it that way, we may stop drinking milk. It's just a secretion from a cow's gland, really for the cow's baby. But we're drinking it. That can introduce, because the blood from the animal can go into that milk, the same way with the meat being infected. But once it gets into you, it can spread and cause cancer, but the way cancer grows is by sugar. I had a coordinator from one conference say, Raiford, that's the first time I ever heard anybody in this church say you can die from cancer from eating sugar. I'm a vegetarian. I wondered why. My daddy had cancer, and he was a vegetarian. You see, nobody talks about sugar. Why? Because Adventists love sugar, You think about it, man. We don't allow no meat and no potluck. You better not bring no meat in this church. But Lord, bring on the carrot cake and the peach cobbler and the apple pie and the ice cream and the whipped cream, And on Saturday night, bring out Krispy Kremes? 2 boxes, you see? Not realizing all these years, the same thing we quote, see, don't eat no meat, Pastor, take them to the board. They eat meat, they bring meat in the church. No, don't bring no meat in there. Not realizing Ellen White even says. Read it, Ellen White. And we didn't have sense enough to pick up on it or do further research on it. She says, if given the test, and I'm paraphrasing, between eating meat and eating sugar, both of them are bad. So don't think I'm telling you go eat meat. You crazy if you think that's what I'm telling you. All right? But given the choice between eating meat and eating cancer, I'm eating meat and eating sugar. Sugar is the worst to eat. Meat at least has protein. Sugar has nothing but empty calories. People don't die of diabetes from eating meat. They die of diabetes from eating too much sugar. Are you following? The same way you have diabetes. And we had a pastor that just recently died. In fact, he was the one who referred the man who helped me to Margie when I had cancer in the hospital. And he passed away, but he had diabetes and cancer. A complex. Are you following? And much of that came later on from he's a vegetarian, but the problem was the vegetarian. The problem was the sugar. And I find myself the same way because when I come down to California, my number one thing was See's candy. Boy, I go back to Alabama because they didn't have none there. And I take 2 boxes, freeze one and eat the other one, And I realized how much sugar I was taking in. I saw where the cancer came from. Somehow the cancer got into my system, but it multiplied by the sugar. Cancer feeds off of sugar. That's the one thing I want you to remember from this morning's sermon. Cancer will feed off of sugar. Are you with me? Now, you can get cancer a number of ways. Meat's just one. But do you realize they did a study? I think it was up here in Central California. There was an elementary school where 3 elementary teachers from that same classroom all came down with cancer. 3, year after year. And they're trying to figure out why is it everybody who has that classroom ends up with cancer. Come to find, you got these power electrical wires over that classroom. And now that radiation coming down, every day those teachers were the first ones in the class and the last ones to leave. And by the time they finished their tenure of teaching, they had cancer. So you see, you can get cancer by just being under electrical wires with all that radiation coming down. Oprah Winfrey had a program on there where they showed different types of plastics where cancer comes out of plastic bottles. You follow? Your aluminum pots that a lot of you love to cook your potlucks in at the church can have cancer, contribute to cancer. These are all new modern things. Now, Ellen White didn't write that because they weren't there then. It's like Last Day Events. She can give you the principles, but you got to put it in your day and age that you're living in. You see, she talks about last day events, the mark of the beast, so forth, but you got to know. I don't see computer written nowhere in the Spirit of Prophecy. But they got computers today. Are you with me? So you got to have sense enough to know. Take the principles Sister White wrote in Spirit of Prophecy, but then watch CNN to see what's going on in the world so you can apply those principles to the day you're living in. See, many of the agents they have today, the herbs and so forth that can fight cancer, weren't even in the Spirit of Prophecy because they weren't around in Ellen White's day. But she gave you the principles of what to look for. So you look for advanced herbs, are you with me, for this day and age. Now, one thing about these herbs, I'll tell you the 3 things I think that contributed to my cure getting over the cancer, because I had 5 different professionals working on me, and not everybody's blessed like that. I had an oncologist who's a cancer specialist. I had a nephrologist who did my kidneys, because they found out when I got the chemotherapy, it destroyed some of my liver cells. When I got the chemotherapy for the liver, it destroyed some of my kidney cells, so I had problems with incontinence, which meant every time I didn't know when I had to go. That's why when I started lecturing again, January, started doing these inner city rallies, I told the pastor when I first walked in church, Pastor, where's your nearest bathroom? Because I don't want no accidents during the appeal, you know? So I knew exactly where to go, and I look at that time. If they go toward 12 o'clock, I'm just telling you, I know this is confidential stuff, but this is what you need to know. If it goes past 12 o'clock, I got to get up and go, just take no chance. Are you with me? See, if you're driving, you got to carry a bottle in that car with you because you don't know what's liable to happen. Are you with me? And if it happens quickly. Are you following? These are things the church needs to know, not be embarrassed by. This is human nature. You need to know this so you know how to help people and be caregivers at your own church for people who got cancer rather than make them feel guilty for the problems they got. All right? So again, there, I had a nephrologist, I had a urologist for my bladder, I had a radiologist for my CAT scans, I had an internist for my liver, and then I had an herbalist help me get rid of the stuff. So imagine, I got all these people working on me, and you see where I am today? Hey, the Lord put that team together for me. Not everybody is blessed to have that. I was a gentleman there the first night I went to Loma Linda. I'm going to try to kind of wrap this up. First time I went to Loma, first night, they put me in the hospital room with another man. He had stomach cancer. And that man kept me up all night because he kept croaking. And you can just, that noise and spitting in the can and all that. And the machine's going on him. And the man was very belligerent. And he was upset. And he had a nice wife. She'd come in and she'd try to calm him. He'd snap at her and all this. And, say, and Margie and Marcia later talked to her out in the lobby. And came back and told me, come to find this man, his first wife had died of cancer. And he was bitter with God. And he went to UCLA Medical Center first. They wouldn't accept him because he didn't have insurance. So Loma Linda accepted him based on the little insurance he had, and they offset some of it, because Loma Linda's good at that. But this brother, he was in the room, and it just mean. And Friday night came. And, on Friday night, you have the students from Loma Linda come and sing on the different floors at the hospital. And they came, one note was, all right, to sing Vespers? I said, fine. I said, because they don't ask if you're Adventist. They can't do that. But they can sense once they know, you're welcome. We say, Happy Sabbath. They know you're Adventist. You see? So they come in, and they sing, and they thank him, can you sing such and such? And they do it. And that man, he just grunt the whole time next door. Me and him, I'm in here, got that one curtain separating us. He's on the other side. And when they left, his wife said, honey, are you all right? Some people think God can do anything. Mean. I'm just mean. And about next day, he was out of my room. They had moved him. Because I guess he didn't want to hear no singing, no Christianity, and and the praying. Because Sister Vivian Becerra came to pray for me in the hospital. And then Sister Imelda Mitchell came another day and prayed. Them two sisters, when they prayed, they pray. They wake up the whole floor. The nurses heard them praying outside, you see? And so he had gotten his fed of God. Now, that was when I first went into Loma Linda. This is where I know this is God's plan. My first night in Loma Linda, he was there. He requested to be removed. He went to another room. Ironically, on my last day in the hospital, 4 weeks later, I end up in the same room with this man. 4 weeks later. They had did this thing, Doc, the thing where they put the bone marrow. That was painful. They put that bone marrow, put that thing in my back, and I went to that bone marrow. And after that, that was the last major thing they did that was painful. And after that, I had to sit up, and they said, we can let you go. And basically, we did all we could for you. Now, follow this. Loma Linda said, we've done all we can. And they recommended that Margie put me in a hospice, which means sending me home to die. Are you following? That's what people don't understand. I credit Loma Linda with saving my life with that chemotherapy early, and they did all they could, you see? But only Loma Linda, as good as they are, can only do so much. Are you with me? And sending me home to die? You see? That's where you realize God has got to step in. That night, when I was getting ready to go, I didn't even know this till Margie told me afterward that they wanted to go there. She said, no, we ain't going to the hospital. So Margie and them were calling everybody at Rubidoux, find out where we could stay. That's where we ended up at Juliana Madison's house. And don't let anybody know, just go there and keep him confined because he needs to be exposed to anybody. I was in that room with that man right next door again, heard that machine going, heard me croaking again all night. And one more night with him. And then they told her, you're going to be released today. I was going to be released that day, that afternoon. Are you with me? He's in the next room, back after 4 weeks in the same room with me. His family came. They were getting ready to pack all my stuff, move me out, got all my pictures off of all the cards you all sent, the flowers and everything, had my stuff packed, put me in a wheelchair to roll me out of Loma Linda with my University of Alabama stuff on and all that, you know. And this brother had died that same night that I was leaving. And we got ready to leave, and we could hear his family in there crying, just grieving over it. They pulled the curtains so nobody could see them. And we just ushered right on outside, and you could hear the girls in there crying, this family. But I thought to myself, we were two men. Both of us came in at the same time. One of us leaves, not knowing if he's going to live or not, but he's alive. And he rolls him out in a wheelchair. The other dies. One believed in God, not knowing, and my cancer was worse than his. But I believe somehow the Lord, whatever he decided it was going to happen, I'll accept it. I come out of there alive, he ends up dead. The same night. That is no coincidence. Are you following? That's why I say, people, when this thing comes down, I got to tell folk. The Lord said, I spared your life for a reason. And I expect for you to go and teach my people, to wake them up and tell them to get on their job and start doing what they know they're supposed to be doing. Stop all this playing games. I'm getting ready to come back. And I'm going to clean the church out before I come. So the church better get its act together and get ready to move. Stop all this mega church syndrome and thinking that music's going to get you into heaven. The praise is good, but if you ain't listening to the word and into the word, all that music ain't going to do you no good because Kirk Franklin ain't going to get you in heaven. So it's time to get back to studying on Saturday afternoon the way we used to do. One of the reasons why I went into health, because of 31st Street, when I was a teenager rebelling, I'd go back there, 31st Street had church all day long. You come to Sabbath school, you go to church, you had to go out and hand out tracts, so you couldn't eat for the potluck. So I went out, knock on doors, hand out tracts, came back, sit, 3 o'clock, Elder Hughes would have his thing on last day prophecy and teach the health message. All right? I go back there and sit in the back because there wasn't nothing else to do, so I'm just kicking back, listening to Elder Hughes. Not little did I know what that man was saying was centering in my mind as a teenager. And it would come back later to help me in my ministry. Are you with me? Follow? I remember one time I was in a state, because I was a mess. I was at Market Street up in Oakland, and somebody hit me. Where does it say in the Bible you can't eat rattlesnake? And I'm saying, oh, whoa. And I know it's in there somewhere, you know. Yeah, but where? One of the first day brothers who, going to corner me. And I called my advisor at Loma Linda, because I was a student there. I said, my PhD now. And where does it say? He said, well, I'm not sure. Well, in the Bible, he said he couldn't find it. I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Now, I heard we're not supposed to be eating, we're not supposed to eat no rabbits. We're not supposed to be eating no snakes. No, but it don't say snake in the Bible. And I said, well, the Lord told me, call Elder Hughes. I called from Oakland, called Elder Hughes all the way down in San Diego. Elder Hughes, now I know when I was a teenager, I heard you say we can't eat rattlesnake. All right, where in the Bible is it? He said, wait a minute, Raiford. He went away a little bit and then came back. Raiford, the Bible does not say you can't eat snake. But what it does say is you can't eat the serpent. And the snake is a descendant of the serpent. Are you with me? Now, there's a brother that didn't even have no college degree. But then Professor Loma Linda couldn't tell me that. Are you following? Simple knowledge you get from God, from studying his word and applying it and teaching other people. He will bless you in ways that your professors won't get blessed when they think they know it all. Are you following? You see, people, we've got to get serious. Every one of you is an educator. Every one of you has got to go out and be a missionary. A lot of this stuff I was going to tell you, you're going to get this afternoon anyhow. But one thing I do want to tell you is when I came back to my oncologist, this is one of the thrills of my life, when he said, Woods, we're doing real good, but you got to come back. We still see a spot. Now, they checked me out. They said, your liver is doing better. And I came back every 2 weeks, I'd go back to check him. And he says, okay, you can go back to Alabama now. I'll give you a whole month, but you come back here after a month. All right? I said, can you just let me have 2 more weeks? This herb is kicking. I just want to try one. No, you got, all right, I'll give you 2 more weeks. After that, Loma Linda's cutting their ties with you. We ain't going to be responsible. Because we take care of your health insurance, and we're not going to be responsible if something go wrong. See, Loma Linda worry about that health insurance coverage. You see? So I said, just 2 more weeks. He said, okay. I came back that following 2 weeks. He looked at it and said, man, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working. The herb on it. Now, I told him about the juices and all that, but follow this. This is what blew me away. He knew I was taking the herbal juices. He knew about the beets and all that. He's Asian, too, and he knows about Chinese medicine. He's the one who told me to take the green tea. Follow? So he knows all about the Asian medicines and so forth, how strong they are. So he's more sympathetic. He said, by the way, if you're going to do this, then watch the meat, get off. If you're going to eat meat, eat some salmon. That's two types of meat they tell me. If you're going to eat the meat, salmon and mackerel are your best cancer fighters because they got omega-3. I ain't telling you to eat the meat, but if you're going to eat it anyway, then go with the salmon and mackerel. Don't eat no red meat, don't eat no chicken. It ain't doing you no good. All right, are you with me? Follow? Now, in addition to that, he wanted to know, by the way, what's these herbs you've been taking from this man? He just, he is the cancer specialist now, the one who's prescribing the medication for me. Are you with me? He wanted to know, what's all this stuff you're taking? Now, you're doing something unique here because these records ain't normal for somebody who comes to treating cancer. You healing up too fast here. All right? Now, I didn't tell him all the herbs, but he looked on that sheet, and we showed him a few of the herbs that we were taking. He looked on the, hey, no wonder you're doing so well. I said, you got periwinkle and mandrate on here. Those are the 2 chemicals we put in the chemotherapy. I'm saying, what? You mean you make these people go through that chemotherapy when you got the natural herbs that you can give them naturally? Why are you all doing this at the hospital? He mentioned one word, pharmaceutical companies. You take that same herb capsule that they gave me that was concentrated and healed my body. Now, number one, you can't get those 2 herbs on the market no more. Why? The pharmaceutical companies have cleared it out. You cannot buy them in stores. You got to be licensed to get them. That's why you got to go to Mexico or somewhere else to find those kind of medications because America has banned it. They know there are herbs out there that can cure cancer and diabetes, but they won't let you get to them because they would undercut the pharmaceutical companies, which would undercut the hospitals. Follow this. Just look at this ridiculous pattern. The pharmaceutical companies get the pills. They push them to the hospitals. The hospitals pay that high price. The same little pill you can get from me, you can break that pill up and give it to 5 people in diluted form. Look at the money they make off of that. So you do it from the pharmaceuticals. They give it to the hospital. The hospital gives you 10 bottles of pills that you really don't need. Are you with me? When they can give you the natural herb and its natural content and get the disease wiped out much faster. But they need you in that hospital bed in order to pay the employee salaries, in order to get revenue into that hospital. Are you with me? So what you got is the pharmaceutical companies giving stuff to the hospitals pay the pharmaceutical, get a kickback from the pharmaceuticals, then the hospitals bill the government, and the health care goes broke, and the government gets in trouble. Who they going to bill? The taxpayer. Are you following? Do you see the sham that's going on here? That's why Adventists, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying all this, but I'm telling you straight up, because if this cancer come back, you can't say I didn't warn you. Just come to my cemetery, and say he told us, I'll tell you, because I'm telling you, folks, in that hospital bed, Margie will tell you, in order to keep from being depressed, I started planning my funeral. Had it laid out. I had Loretta Hunter going to be on the organ because she played for both Stacy and Raiford's funerals, so she's going to play for mine. Had Walter Ortiz, he going to kick it off. Had Mount Rubidoux Choir, they going to sing. Had Anthony Wiggins, he going to come in and end it with Jesus Led Me All the Way. You see, Bobby Mitchell's going to do the eulogy. I had the pallbearers down, Travis, Gary, I had Kevin, I had Michael, I had Chuck. I had my pallbearers already lined up, the whole funeral. All they got to do is follow the script. So I was ready to go, you see. I said, devil, you're going to take me out, you're going to at least, I'm going to go out happy. And I tell them, don't put me in no black suit either. Let me wear light. Put me in white or something. I'm going to heaven, not hell. So don't put me in no black. So you see, with this, you got to have a sense of humor and a sense of urgency when you're going through this kind of disease. One of the things that they pointed out with AIDS victims that applies to cancer victims, when you are depressed and you know you got a terminal death, the best thing you do is have a positive outlook on life. I remember telling a young lady who had AIDS who could not get assistance in the Adventist church because we just backed off from AIDS back in the 80s and 90s. Didn't want nothing to do. You must have been doing something wrong. You had AIDS. She had a blood transfusion and got AIDS. And could not convince people that it was nothing to do with sex, but a transfusion. Arthur Ashe died of AIDS from a blood transfusion, by the way. You see? But here she says she went to a clinic, AIDS clinic in San Francisco. They told her the best thing you could do for your AIDS is to have a positive outlook. And that's the most underestimated thing that many victims of cancer and AIDS go through that are terminal. Always have a positive outlook because that can uplift your spirit and it makes your body begin to work. You get depressed, your body shuts down and your resistance goes down. But keep that spirit, stay happy, and you'll be amazed at how the Lord can bring you through and how your health will help you as well. I'm just going to cut this out because I don't know where I am. Like I said, this was a sermon that I let the Lord take. But I will say at Oakwood, it was refreshing. When I didn't think I'd make it back there, but in December when you had all the ministers come down to Oakwood all from all over the nation for Evangelism Council, Danny Shelton was there. And they wanted to come to Inner City Symposium. They came this year. And we met, by the way. That Sunday night, they announced that Dr. Leslie Pollard was the new president of Oakwood. Now, Leslie Pollard had been knowing our family for 30 years because when he first started ministry, I was doing health seminars for him out of Santa Monica. And so when we met there, Elder Pollard came in. We were in. Normally, we meet downstairs in a little old small conference room. Now that we had a California man who's the president, we were in the conference room with the president, a big boardroom with them high chairs and everything. And I'm expecting Elder Pollard to come and we, say congratulations and all that. He comes in because when he was at Loma Linda, when I was in the hospital, the second day he came to see me at Loma Linda. He walks into the president's boardroom at Oakwood, stands over me, puts his hands on my shoulders in front of everybody. Elder Mitchell, Elder King, all of them were there. All the coordinators from the West Coast were there and from the North Pacific Union. And said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a miracle. He said, I saw Raiford in the hospital. And I can tell you from experience, this is a miracle. The Lord has worked a miracle in this man. So you see, there's something around the corner. Something's going to happen. I got the feeling in my gut something's going to happen that's going to wake this church up. Elder Peeler told me later on when I was sitting in his office, when he came to see me, they looked at me and they said, he ain't going to make it. I mean, it was bad. Him and Dr. King came to see me the second day. And he said, Raiford, I told George. I said, George, man, it really looks bad for Raiford. But something in my gut says the Lord's going to pull him through this because he ain't finished with him yet. And he said, and Peeler said, I always, when I get that inclination, usually I'm right, And I think of that and I think of the different kinds of prayers and so forth that have gone on. And beloved, all I can say is that we'll go through all this struggle. We'll go through all this pain. But what we do for others is what counts. And in the end, all I want to hear him say, and all you should want to hear him say, is well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done.
Amen, amen. Let someone say amen in the house of God today. To God be the glory, great things he has done. Truly our hearts have been blessed by the power of this testimony. Amen. Nothing more needs to be said. We're going to now just have you to stand up on your feet. And we're going to have a benediction brought to us. We'll remind you to come back here as soon as you can. Go downstairs. A wonderful meal is prepared. Eat